3, 2, 1, live on Facebook. All right, everything is political. I'm Apostle Prophet SB Barber, and we're broadcasting live from Lockstars.
Lockstars. I don't have a lock, but I'm down here.
Well, we have a lot that we want to bring to your attention. For those of you who were with us last week, we had the privilege of talking up close and personal with Master Loctician Michael Kuykindall. And he is working on his documentary called From the Roots. And we'll chat with him in just a moment. We want you to get caught up on everything that's going on. So this is what we're going to do. Like we told you, we're going to bring you the truth. Real, raw reality. And we don't want you to miss out on anything. So for those of you in social media, here's what I want you to do. I want you to share, tag, run this truth. You won't be running a lie. You will be running the truth. We're going to touch bases very quickly with Atlanta, and we will be talking with Deborah Watts. Deborah came to the table and gave us the whole truth, the tell-all concerning the murder of her cousin Mpls when he was 14 years old. Well, there's been an update, and so what we want to do is get her on the line right now. All right, Deborah Watts, your mic is open. Let me just check her number. I have a telephone number ending, well, the area code is 678, and the last four digits is 0242. Alvin, Sykes. All right. Oh. Listen, we've got your mic open now.
Not muted. I'm not muted.
All right. We have unmuted you. All right. And so you can be heard here in Lockstars. All right, everyone. We have Deborah Watts on the line from Atlanta, and she is the cousin of Mpls, who was murdered by two white men when he was 14 years old, and she's going to give us an update. All right, Deborah, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, Prophet Barber. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I hope you are able to hear me.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
All right.
Well, I think like many of us, just last week, there was a Vanity Fair article that came out with the title, How Author Timothy Tyson Found the Woman at the Center of the Mpls case. And the byline was, with renewed cultural interest in the murder that catalyzed the 20th century civil rights movement, an interview with the author of the new book, it actually tracked her down. But essentially, in conversation with this author, revealed in 2007 that she lied about Mpls and what Mpls did to her. And so that has been trending for the past week. It has been the interest of those who have worked on the case, who have helped to reopen the case, our family members, also those that are in the civil rights arena, media, and others are very much interested and have been commenting on this revelation. It is not a surprise to our family that she lied, but it is certainly a relief that this information is coming out, although it is 10 years old. She had this conversation with Timothy Tyson in 2007. So that's pretty much the bottom line of what has happened. Her admittance that, the things that she said Emmett did to her, grabbing her arm, making sexual advances towards her, were all a lie. Our cousins and others who were witnesses at the time when Emmett had entered the store and exited the store, do admit that Mpls did whistle at her, but did none of the other things, and they've known all along, she did none of the other things that she actually testified, which her testimony was actually not admitted in the trial, but it was submitted by her attorneys for possible a later case against her. So, Prophetess Barber, that's basically it. And we have been in the process of responding, like yourself, to others and media who want to better understand our response, what we'd like to see, also how this revelation, what impact it has on the case and on Carolyn Bryant, and then also how this ties into the newly reauthorized bill, the Mpls Unsolved Civil Rights Crimes Act and Reauthorization Act of 2016. And I have asked Alvin Sykes to join us to talk about that, because that brings us to that, up to date to today and what's happening and how we're going to be moving forward. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have in terms of how we wish to move forward or what our desires are as a family.
All right, my commentator, Commissioner Kenya Weathers.
Good morning, Deborah. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for asking.
Hey, this brother Kenya, I haven't seen you in about 10 years. I remember when you first came up here, I met you at the Urban League. Over on Penn in Plymouth.
Yes.
That back in the day, huh?
Good talking to you. Good reconnecting.
Yeah, so I'm still out here battling. So I salute your efforts for keeping this moving forward. And with with Mr. Alvin Sykes, that's the president that's leading that. One of the things that we want to do from Minnesota, is to connect, to push politically. We want to look at the individuals that were involved in that process that did a cover-up. That was a great cover-up, and we want to bring those and expose those individuals. Because at the end of the day, it all boils down to race. We have not moved forward on race. And I salute Mamie for responding. I remember when my mom told me about it. I'm originally from Detroit. And my mother and father, they're both from Greenwood, Mississippi. Jump back, crooked letter. So
wow.
I know all of and the spirit is alive. You might have destroyed his body, but the spirit continues, and we will not stop until justice is served. And from that case, the husband and the brother-in-law admitted that they were the ones that killed him, and the courts acquitted them. Here's the thing: we're questioning whether she's too old to be prosecuted for murder when she should have been charged with involuntary manslaughter. But at the greater picture, there was a great cover-up politically, and whether that was city,
Absolutely.
whether that was state, whether that was federal, and we want to know who those individuals. It's like having cancer. It's going to continue until we carve that cancer out, and that's race discrimination. If he was a white guy, had done all of that, grab him, hey baby, how you doing? You wouldn't have cut his penis off. You wouldn't have done the nasty things that you do. And so therefore, other individuals still can be brought to justice in a cover-up. And if we can't prosecute you, within the law, then we'll politically remove you. And we're not the only individuals that know that, sis. Believe that. And this is just the beginning of carving out the cancer. So I look forward to working, building a coalition. We need to expand and build a coalition and press every single congressman and senator and press them that we're demanding. We're not asking, we're demanding the truth. So that's where I'm at. So I salute you. We fully engaged, and let's extend our conversation off the mic and continue to build up our troop strength. Okay?
Yes, well, thank you, Commissioner. And we definitely know that the public has a position. They feel just as outraged as we have. This is almost a 62-year journey for our family. Emmett's murder happened in 1955. And from our family's perspective, and I'll just say this, that we know that we have the community, the world, and others that understand how horrific this murder was, how it was a spark that started the civil rights movement, and how it was attacked against our humanity. And so we know that others think that as well and join us in embracing us as we move this forward. But I have to say that our family, number one, as this news has been exposed, we definitely want the truth. We want the truth by any means necessary.
That's right.
And that would mean, whether the case is, if there is a chance that this case can be reopened, we certainly would want the appropriate evidence to be used, this new information to be used, if that's possible. Now, I'm not an attorney, and I don't know what is possible at this point, but that is the desire of our family. If there's any possibility of prosecution or reopening the case, we would like to have that pursued. The second or the third area is that if there's any type of compensation or benefit to Carolyn Bryant Donham and her family and generations coming after her, that our suggestion and request, and could even lead to a demand, is that she not receiving, that any accomplice or anyone involved in having a role in Mpls murder, that they don't receive any compensation as relates to her manuscript, which is due to be released in 2036. We want to know what's included in that manuscript. We think the appropriate authorities need to look closely at it. The other thing is we'd like to request that if there is any compensation, that she understands the folks, the family, and others who've been impacted by the lie that she's told. The community there in the Delta, those young people there, if you look at the Delta area and in those counties, the surrounding counties, that were impacted by this miscarriage of justice, it looks like time stood still. And so, tourism right now is on the minds of those individuals who are erecting signs and driving tours and developing a center there for tourism and refurbishing the courthouse to look exactly like it did when the murderers were acquitted. Tourism is at the front of their mind. And I'm thinking, let's convert that and share that with the community there.
That's right.
Uplift the lives and the hearts and minds of those young people. And then there's the estate, Mamie Till Mobley's estate. There's also the foundation that our family members have established. We're doing this work. We are out in the field. We are creating awareness. We're educating our young people. We're doing Know Your Rights training. We're showing documentaries. We're standing on platforms and in places where we're speaking out. We have not been silent in any sense. The other area that we'd like to see, and that is all the records corrected with the correction of Emmett causing his own death. He committing and doing these things that Carolyn lied about. Those are shown in some historical documents. They're in newspaper articles and probably in some museum exhibitions, books, maybe even movies. We'd like for those individuals responsible to correct them. So we want the record straight. We want it to reflect this lie, and that the consciousness of America is cleared as it relates to Emmett, or that it's corrected, and they eliminate in their mind that Emmett caused his own death. And there are people that think that he broke a rule, an unwritten rule, and crossed the line based on Carolyn's lie. And because of her lie, Emmett is no longer alive. So we're going to continue to move forward. We have Facebook, Mpls.legacyfoundation.com, where your audience can engage with us. We have Twitter. Our handle is @Emmett. We also have Instagram, Emmett Till Legacy Foundation. On a earlier show, we talked about the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Reauthorization Act of 2016.
Miss Deborah Watts.
And you gave us a wonderful platform to talk about that. And I'd like to ask Alvin Sykes, who was involved with the reopening of the case in 2007, in 2004, and then also the Till Bill 1 that was signed in 2007,
all right.
And then also the Till Bill 2.
Let me
Alvin,
do this. One moment. Let me do this.
Sorry.
That's all right. You're handling business, and this is great. It's real time. I want to acknowledge our Facebook Live guest, and thank you all for joining in. Remember,
Thank you.
this is a Black History Chronicle, and you are listening to the voice of Miss Deborah Watts. She's known to many and now known to more. And we are talking about the truth that the family always knew. The family always knew the truth. What took place is the lies that were told, as in the majority of the scenarios, the atrocities that happen to blacks who are murdered, lynched, hung, however you want to look at that. And because of those atrocities, it makes it so difficult to talk about it in families, especially when it comes to our ancestors, those that are still living. These are stories that, they don't really want to talk about because it's painful. And not only that, there's never been justice for being black, for being tried, hung, murdered, being black. And so it makes it more painful for them to come out. And that's why we wanted to take this February, kicking this off with this Black History Chronicle. It is time, and it is an appointed time upon the lives of us as a black people.
That's right.
So there is a travail that continues to happen, but information is going to get to all of you, and you're getting that information. It's not something we read about, although articles have been written in about 5 publications right now. But you're hearing from the family members of Emmett Till and the attorney professor who sits at the helm of the Emmett Till Justice Coalition Campaign. Justice Campaign. All right. So having said that, Deborah, please go ahead and announce Mr. Alvin Sykes.
Yes. Well, you've announced him, and I believe he's with us, and I would like to say that Alvin has been on this journey with us for a long time, and he is actually out of the Midwest area, Kansas City area, and is very well noted there and across the country regarding his Emmett Till Justice Campaign and other work even before that. So he has a long history, about 40 years or so, in seeking justice for not only Emmett, but also for others as well in his community and outside of there as well. And we definitely appreciate his legal mind. He is not an attorney, but he does have a wonderful and significant grasp of how the legal proceedings need to take place, and has been very instrumental in working with us and our family in moving all of our successes forward.
All right.
Alvin, are you there?
We do not see his number. What is his area code?
913.
No, he is not showing up yet. So would you like, are you able to do a, what do they call it?
Reconnect.
Call him, however you'd like to do so. And then you would have a two-way.
If you want to keep talking, I will try to, I will try.
Guess what?
to-
I think we
to
have
get
him.
to-
We have him.
Oh, okay, good.
He probably was eating some Gates barbecue. That's what was going on. Can't get it. You go to
Alvin, are
You can go ahead and ask him that.
Hey, Alvin, you done with your Gates barbecue?
Yes, sir. Well, Gates is my favorite, but right now I must confess I'm on McDonald's right now.
All right, Alvin.
I had to sacrifice, because if I hadn't been what I wanted Russ to get on the show, I would have went to Gates, but that would have took longer.
All right, Alvin, just for the record, let me do this because we are live broadcasting from Lockstars. How many of you here are familiar with Gates Barbecue? Out of where?
Kansas City.
Wait a minute, hold up.
Kansas City.
A couple of them, I couldn't get them to show their faces, but they raised their hands.
Campaign for Gates Barbecue, huh? You're welcome, Mr. Gates.
All right.
Let me say one thing about the Gates and Ollie Gates and George Gates and the whole Gates family. They not only make good barbecue, they're on it, and that's what they're known for, but they're very good stewards in the community.
Yes, they are.
Contribute to various causes.
Yes, they do.
Work very hard.
Yes, they do.
And to make our community a lot better, and that makes their food taste a lot better.
Sure do, bruh.
That's important. Thank you, Alvin. I don't know if you heard your introduction, but I did give one for you, and so I'm going to turn it back over to Prophetess Barber so that you can share your information.
All right. Thanks about that.
All right. I believe that the priority, and I believe that my co-host will agree to that, is that the question is, from a cold case perspective, you all obviously have strategy and the plans of the family in moving forward. But now that the appropriation has been made in the $135 million and to be dispersed over a 10-year period, every 10 years, $13.5 million, and yet when we look back at the end of 2008, only roughly $5 million had been used of that money. So that right there says that was coal all by itself. I mean, so how do we awaken our people as well as move forward in this in support of the legacy of Emmett Till? But that represents we as Black people.
Let me clarify a couple points so that everything is on the same page. The 13.5 million, what we have done thus far and what President Obama signed was the authorization, the passage of the bill, and the authorization of up to 13.5 million a year for the next 10 years. Now, after that 10 years, even though the law is permanent from now on, every 10 years you have to start over in terms of the appropriation. part of what money would be used is up to 13.5 million. So now what we have to go through this year that would be just as difficult as the organization is the appropriation. And that's where it fell down during 2008. When that money was authorized in the initial deal, it was Congress that failed to appropriate more during the course of the 10 years. That's why you only had 1.5 million or so that was spent. And it was because the law said up to this period, up to this amount. So it's based on the demand, the needs, the cases that come forth, and what it takes to, as well as the Congress along the route. This time around, it'll be different in two ways. One, developing a master plan for development of the cases to be investigated. There was no master plan the first time around. That was more of a learning curve. The type of got the cases from really one source, and that was the Southern Poverty Law Center. Primarily, the cases on their wall.
Okay.
They looked at for cases that didn't match up as being racial. Going to be working in a more broader management-type way to find the various cases, go throughout the migration route where people escape from the South, and those are the people that know who the victims are and they didn't do that the last time around. So
Wait a minute, did I doze off for a moment? I'm just checking myself. Did I doze off for a moment in something you said in reference to earlier on?
Yeah.
Okay, those cases didn't deem to be racist?
I think what Brother Sykes, what she asked you, she's talking about when you was talking about the master plan, and you talked about the Southern poverty, and they had Mpls file on the wall, but there were other files on the wall that they found that was less racist. Was that correct what you said? Brother Sykes.
All right, we dropped his call. He'll dial back in. All right, Deborah, are you able to, Ms. Deborah Watts, are you able to
Yes.
tag team while he comes back to
Go
the
ahead,
line?
Deborah.
Okay. What he was referring to, and that is what's different between Till Bill 1 and Till Bill 2. Till Bill 2 was just recently reauthorized in December of 2016. And the cases that were a part of Till Bill 1 were, the source was roughly and generally the Southern Poverty Law Center, who had cases that they knew were racially motivated, because these cases have to be racially motivated and end up in a death to be a part of Till Bill 1 and 2 actually. But in Till Bill 2, there is a plan now to look more closely along the migration route, where folks migrated from the south, north, and they may not be in the south any longer, and look along that migration route to do more of a manhunt, to do more of investigating, to do more questioning of families about loved ones who may have disappeared, or they knew were murdered, or they knew were lynched, kidnapped, and such, because, we were terrorized during that time.
Absolutely.
And so there are families that left the South with that information, and with the investigations that occur, they need to be broader. And that's what Alvin was referring to. And that's what we're hoping, and that's part of the plan, and those individuals that are working with the coalition and others to make suggestions, recommendations, and a strategy, a more effective strategy going forward.
All right, Alvin is with us again. Professor, Attorney Alvin Sykes has rejoined us.
Alvin, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I just completed your thought about the
Deborah did very well.
She did, yeah.
But what we're doing now is we're waiting for a session to be confirmed. He'll be confirmed sometime today. That's the next
Attorney
thing
General.
going. Right, and then the meeting will be set with him, as well as other Justice Department officials, to start developing the master plan on how we're going to implement this. The only thing I would say about what Deborah said that wasn't correct, and it contributed to the low number of cases last time, and that was the number of cases that came from the Southern Poverty Law Center weren't cases that they knew were racially motivated. Most of those were cases that they could not determine were racially motivated or not during their initial review of those cases, and that's why they didn't make it on the wall on it, and that made it very difficult. Once I heard that was how they were going to approach it, I immediately looked at we were going to have a low number of cases, because if these experts at Southern Poverty Law Center couldn't determine if they were racially motivated, I knew it would be a lot harder for DOJ to do that in their reviews.
Professor, so what you're saying is basically is that Southern Poverty Law Center, they found it a lot of the cases was not racially motivated, and you're saying DOJ did the same thing, correct? Pretty much.
Yeah, they said they couldn't determine.
Okay.
No, all the names that were on the wall that they had, which was like the memorial wall, all those were racially motivated cases that they knew. But there was a significant number of cases that they didn't put on the wall because when they initially looked at those cases with their lawyers and them, they couldn't determine whether they were racially motivated or not.
Okay.
So they didn't put it on the wall. So when Bill 2 came along, when Bill 1 came along, in the cold case initiative, then they gave all those cases to DOJ, and those were cases that they couldn't determine. There were other cases that were on the wall that were racially motivated that got included in the numbers, but the large number of the ones that DOJ received from them were ones that were not determined to be racially motivated, and it made it a lot more difficult for DOJ to be able to then look at those cases and have the evidence to show that it was racially motivated. So a lot of those cases, there was no action on them, and then the rest of them were that they found were people who were already dead. So it was a lower number. This time around, now that it's going into the 70s, we expect that there'll be a lot more cases, or significant number of cases that will be coming up for review, as well as a more aggressive manhunt, as she explained, to go out and really look for cases and instill some confidence in people that something could and will be done. I mean, the only thing worse is that you really experience is you go through all this back in the 50s and the 60s, and your life goes on, and you're living, and you're going ahead, and then here comes an effort to say we're going to reopen it, and now you got to reopen these wounds all over again, nothing to happen. So people would want to know and need it to be instilled with them that if you come forth, if you reopen your wounds and come forth with this information, this is the fast and best chance for something to happen, and we'll work to make sure that it's not, you coming forth is not coming forth in vain. And that there's a different level of officials than it was then, because a lot of people that do have that information back in that period of time, they didn't trust it. They didn't trust J. Edgar Hoover, and they still got that distrust in them, in their minds, and that whole bill coming forth. But now, when you look at the Department of Justice, it's a lot younger generation of the decision makers now that want people that were locked into that period of time and had all those fears there. The younger generation that don't have that type of fear, and they will work aggressively along with the states to see if they can prosecute, to find the truth is the first goal, and then we'll possibly prosecute any other cases that are possible, and now to the end of 1979.
You know, I'm just going to do a round robin here in the salon. How many of you this is the first you've heard of this?
Me? I don't know. Yeah, that's the first for me. I don't know what's going on.
All right, just throw your voice. First for... How many of you, this is the first you've heard of this?
It's the first.
All right, the round robin is the first. Now, you made reference, you said we have one of the clients here. What did you say? She was under the dryer, but we got you. We got you. You'll be able to hear the broadcast afterwards also. All right, so this is a first for so many. And it's interesting, the lives that get run, that people can sit in the barbershop, in the salon, you know, hanging out, or even on Facebook, social media, and talk about things that are old and they have no facts to back it up. So, you know, can everyone just give the Emmett Foundation a round of applause for it? Wow. And the mere fact that from South to, can you believe, Minnesota, that we have this privilege to get the facts and then get our marching orders. And as you mentioned, a lot of times we as blacks will recoil and won't really want to say a whole lot because we know of the injustices being black, number one. And so continue to educate us and inform our listeners, give them whatever the instruction is for us to go forward. We cannot afford for $13 million within this 10-year period to just sit there. I'm sorry, the 1-year period, to just sit there to be unused. Does anyone have any questions?
I have one.
All right, we have, I call her doctor, but she is Sister Sharon Brooks. She is Executive Director of Piece of Hope, Inc. And her Piece of Hope. And her primary focus is, and she's an educated, beautiful black woman. She is our voice here in Minnesota. She has a seat at the Department of Corrections table. She's also the newly appointed Minneapolis NAACP
Prison Outreach Committee co-chair.
Prison Outreach Culture. All right, she has a question.
I do. Hello, Attorney Sykes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm okay. Thanks for asking. My question is about the appropriations, the $13 million. Are organizations such as my own or other smaller organizations able to utilize a portion of that money to help find cases that involve unsolved murders from the civil rights era?
That's the thing that we want to get clarified. When we introduced the bill early last year, we had a provision in there for grants to go to organizations, filmmakers, schools, and other entities, the private sector, to investigate and assist with investigating these cases. During the Senate process, that got taken out because one of the senators put a hold on it and said he didn't want that to be going to the private groups. He only wanted to go to the government. Then when it went through the process of being reinstated and went further, there was 1.5 million put in there for public engagement. And it's in that public engagement, it says, and in the bill, in the law, it says, for meetings with the Department of Justice and dealings with the interaction with them on these cases. So the first item that we have on the agenda with the Attorney General is, does that mean that will be grants that will go to organizations and other entities that are appointed, or does it not? And that's that's the number one item that we need to know. We know that there's 1.5 million for public engagement. Now we got to get a clarification of what does that mean and where does that go.
What does that mean?
So
That's excellent.
And that's a great question too. And just so you know, I do want to clarify that in our dealings and in working with the Department of Justice and Congress and Senate, there were a number of us that joined together. Our family, our foundation, along with Alvin with the Mpls Justice Campaign, and other educational institutions such as Syracuse University, Northeastern University, and Emory, along with the NAACP and the Southern Poverty Law Center. So a part of this bipartisan group, those individuals were very vocal, and have been working with a variety of different families over the course of a few years. And I believe what Alvin was saying too, we're trying to make sure that the work that they have been doing and the work that they want to do going forward has some sort of a pathway in continuing, and that with the hope, that they can do that with the right kind of support and this kind of support. But yes, clarifying that is what Alvin was saying is definitely necessary. But there are entities and groups and organizations that have been working, in this arena for a while. And also to note, with the reauthorization, right now there will be an opportunity to look at cases through 1979. So the first bill was looking at cases through 1969. And so there was, I guess, a 10-year window of opportunity that was open to take a look at those cases through 1979. So any cases beyond that, right now under this bill, unless there's some miracle or amendment or what have you, but right now that was what Alvin and the rest of the group were able to negotiate and agree to. So I wanted to make sure that was clear in terms of time frame.
Sister Watts, did I hear you correctly? Did you just say $1.5 million for public engagement, which we also call community engagement? That's what was appropriated? Is that what you said?
Alvin mentioned that was for public engagement.
Yeah,
and we're not really clear on what that means.
Yeah, I'm saying, that.
That's why it's the number one item with the meeting with session. The number one item is, what does that mean? It says, if you look at the law itself, all you have to do, you can pull it up and see it yourself. Just do it by the name of the law, Mpls Unsolved Civil Rights Reauthorization Act. And you'll see in there the breakdown, and it says $1.5 million for public engagement. But in part of the language of reading that, it speaks from the standpoint for under that for engagement in meetings with the Department of Justice and the law enforcement officials, the entities, the various entities. That's what the organizations are lumped under to do so. So it's kind of confusing. What does that mean? Does that mean that to bring cases to meet with the department in Washington and meet with the Attorney General to update that's where the money gets spent? Or does it mean that as far as going out into the communities, helping to get the cases, and bring a report that it comes to that. So that's that's the number one item to get a clarification. What does that 1.5 million mean, and what can it be spent on, and who can it be spent with?
Okay. Alvin, one thing I mean, like I said, I salute the effort and the work that you're doing.
Yes.
You and Sister Deborah, I really do. And what we're doing is building this coalition. When you talked about the migration of black folks out of the South, that's known as the Black Exodus, where black folks, came south. So that's information that we have to gather. In order to gather that information and to solve a lot of these cases, two things we need to do. We're going to have to engage our community on a national approach, where we're out in the communities and speaking with people that came out of that black exodus. That's going to require way more than $1.5 million. I can tell you that. And the second thing that we really need to make sure, so that
what we're talking about is 1.5 million a year.
Right. That's like $1. That's not going to work. Secondly, we have to look at who covered up the case. There's a lot of people that actually covered that up that are elected officials. And speaking as a commissioner from here in Minneapolis, that's a no-no. You're implicated partially into this crime. And so as we work, and a lot of their minions will still be in these positions where we're trying to obtain this information and we can't get it because we're being blocked. So if we are able to identify those that actually were putting the barriers and being obstructive, if we can identify them and those that are connected with them, it makes the process a lot easier legally. So that's another thing. I mean, yeah, these people have committed these crimes, and if the statute of limitation is not there, they still should be prosecuted. I wouldn't care if you're 99, 103 years old. You'll spend the next 1 year in prison locked up behind what you did. So this is a national conversation, but it's a deeper conversation because we're talking about race. Not much has really changed. So if we don't get at the cancer, then the whole body is going to die. And that's the main reason why the black communities on the national level, they're carrying on slavery PTSD. From one generation to the next generation, unsolved. This is an unsolved situation. So, I might be rubbing a few people the wrong way with my verbalization, but I'm black and I'm proud. I believe in black power, and I'm unapologetic for it. Just because I'm pro-black doesn't mean that I'm anti-white. This is an issue that I'm going to give 120% to stand with you. All political connections that I may have and my friends, we're all going to be on board with that.
And that's one of the things that has to happen in our dialoguing with one another, that we don't have to make apologies for those things that we must be about. One of the things I was thinking about when you're talking about on the ground, boots on the ground, I can't help I'd be remiss to ignore saying anything about our seniors and communicating with them, our elders, because so much of this information they have no access to, barely the young folks, and the young folks are not sharing this. And so now we have to, whether we know it or not, let me tell you what I see in the spirit. We see a gem of an opportunity now spiritually to reconnect our young people, our millennials, as well as our elders. We have elders by name, we have elders by age, and then the losses that those elders experienced that they've never really even shared. Out of my family, we have a black museum that is on the West Coast, and I'm finding out more about that. And my point is, the story is, it was so difficult to get, what do you call the I don't want to say it the wrong way, but the chains and the things that were put around our necks and all of those things that are yes, that our families host but won't talk about it, don't want to talk about it because of how hard that is. So from your standpoint, if you already know and have thought about it, since this is coming out of a family such as the Till Mobley family still in existence? What are some ways that you suggest that, or are you in agreement with me that we now begin to take this truth to our boots on the ground with our elders, our aged, to first of all present it to them that they know this is factual. This is a win that we must continue in, but we need their cold case information.
Okay, and I'd like to address just a piece of that, Prophet Barber, and that is, this isn't new work, that this isn't a new thing, and I'll tell you, there's not been budget for the work that Alvin has done, the work that we've done. There's never been a section of our nonprofit budget for this. It has been done by the blood, sweat, tears, time. Even some of the filmmakers have sacrificed a lot, and so it's been a journey that whether it's investigative reporters have provided critical information. So you're absolutely right. It does take a community, but I'll tell you, it's been done because it's been a commitment to the truth. It's been a commitment to justice for many of us. That's number one. Number two is that there are organizations that are currently in place that once this master plan is communicated and once it's established, and I'm going to rely on the experts to pull it together, those that we've trusted over 60-some years, to help frame this, because I'll tell you, I'm in it because of the legacy, because of the injustice, and why. And so we're going to make sure that there's some credibility, that there's some integrity to the process going forward.
We have a question from.
So the other.
We have a question from
Facebook. Let me just say.
Go ahead.
Okay, and so let me just finish. Can you maintain it or contain it or retain it?
Oh, absolutely.
And so what I want to say is, so give us some time, a little bit, to work through this, because there is a method to the madness, if you will. There is a process that has to be put in place, because if you understand this, and I sent to you a copy of the law, a copy of what Congress and the Senate and what the President signed, that you have to take a really close look at. And feel free to share that with the audience. Share it online so people are familiar with what we're talking about. We have to work within that law. If we're talking about the Emmett Unsolved Civil Rights Crimes Act, we have to work within those parameters. Now, truly, there are opportunities, maybe in the future for amendments to some of that as we move forward. But there will be information shared with you and others as we move through this process. And some of it, because right now we talk about Jeff Sessions, but he hasn't been approved. He hasn't been confirmed yet. And so we have people that are sitting there right now that are temporary, attorney general and others. So there's some turmoil right now. Or I shouldn't say turmoil, but just some transitioning that needs to happen. And there's some, our eyes and ears our eyes aren't blind, or ears aren't covered, because we know that there's a deep level of opposition against him. But whoever is sitting in that position, whoever is sitting there, we've got to work with them to make sure that this bill gets implemented. And there are just certain things about that implementation. We don't know the answers yet, but I'll best assured that Alvin, our family, those that are part of our coalition that's already established are bearing down on trying to get and make sure that this is effective, that the move is effective. But I appreciate the interest and also the opportunity, in the future to work with some folks if that's what we can essentially do. And Alvin, you might want to weigh in on that too.
The part that I would want to weigh in and hear what the question on the Facebook question is, I know when the brother mentioned about the 1.5 million a year and that not being enough, even over the course of 10 years, which was 15 million, that not being enough. My response to that is twofold. One, we're going to have to do leveraging. We're not going to be able to just use only the federal monies to get forward to it, because it's a tremendous fight to get any dollars that we get. And to put it in perspective, when I first started with Senator Talon of Missouri in 2004 on the original bill, the original budget that his staffer proposed was $1 million. That's $1 million to investigate all unsolved cases all across the country for everything. $1 million a year. It took a whole lot of fighting behind the scenes and hopefully to even get it up to this point. So we have to use that money and get justification for it, but we also have to leverage the resources in the communities to help along strictly just on federal dollars. You said it was a question from somebody on Facebook?
Yes, okay. Hold the question, Commissioner. Is that okay?
Yeah, hold on.
All right. First of all, let me greet our Facebook audience, listeners. If there was ever a plea that I want to make to you, first of all, if this is the first time you're hearing this information and it's kind of going over your head, but you're hanging on with everything that you've got to understand it, because this is about you, this is about us. After the broadcast, as you know, you can access Facebook Live. Also, it will be downloaded to our GMN Live TV YouTube channel. So we do want you to subscribe to GMN Live TV on YouTube. The other thing is, do what you do best. Tag folks, share with them, let them join in here. Make your comments so that we can get your comments to the powers that be, the organizations, etc. This is us now. This is us now. You're even getting marching orders. I'm appealing to clergy as never before. When you stand in that pulpit, as I would, it comes a time where, because we know that God is justice, He is justice, but there's information that you have the obligation to share with your congregants. And amongst your congregants, the Word of God says, know them that labor amongst you. Everyone isn't clergy sitting in the pews. Everyone isn't a teacher in the pews. But who are those individuals? You have legal professionals within the congregations, etc. And they want to know what is going on. Our young people want to know. All right, so the question came from Caesar, and it's two-part. Maybe you did get a chance to answer this. What is the best way to make use of the funding, and
just
how to obtain it?
Ignore it.
As well as, is my organization to help uncover some of these unsolved cases and be part of investigations? I think they're asking, is there room for investigators, boots on the ground?
Let me answer the second one of the parts first in terms of funding, obtaining funding. And this is something that folks can start doing now today, and it's really the only thing that's available to do now today. And that's now we got it authorized, we have to get it appropriated, money appropriated. So that's going to come under the jurisdiction of the Senate Appropriation Committee and the House Appropriation Committee. And I don't have the info right here, but what you can do is look up the House Appropriation Committee and Senate Appropriation Committee, find the names of the members of those committees, and start communicating with their staffers saying that you support full appropriation for the Reauthorization Act of the 13.5 million. That's not something you have to wait on. You can do that right after we hang up the phone.
And Alvin, I will agree also once because we've gathered some of that information already, but I'll agree to have our PR people put that on the Mpls Legacy Foundation Facebook page. We'll make that available in all of our outlets so you can access it. Okay?
Deborah, make sure
that'd be great. Now the second part of it is will take a little bit more time because now the majority of the money goes to government for the investigation to be conducted. The FBI, the local law enforcement, and those things. Other than the 1.5 million that we need to find out what that means and how that can be used and spent. So that will come about as we engage in these meetings and dialogues with the new Attorney General and the Civil Rights Division, and we will continue to get the word out through outlets like the Legacy Foundations and others as to what you can do as we get that information. But as soon as he's confirmed, and he'll be confirmed at some point today, once he gets confirmed, then the process starts of setting up the meeting in terms with him as well as the others within the Civil Rights Division, as well as directly with the congressional people for the appropriations. And so you'll start to get direction and then they'll continue, but we don't have all the answers now, but we will get all the answers and spread the answers as far and wide as we can once we get them.
We are so proud of this. Wow. Can I get a response in the room? This is sanctuary, but can we get a response in the sanctuary here? Some snaps. Okay. All right. We're very proud of this. All right. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Hey, Doc, I want to ask a question of you and Sister Watts. What is the position? Because I heard you mention, you said leverage. I know what leverage is. I'm a politician. What's the position of the black? I know what that meant. You got to go in the swamp to get what you really want. What is the position with the Black Congressional Caucus with helping you spearhead this effort?
John Lewis is the primary sponsor for both Bill 1 and 2. And part of what happened as it related to the appropriations in the previous bill was that there wasn't enough congressional follow-up to make sure that the monies were appropriate. The prior and beginning of this effort for Bill 2, even before it was introduced, the first thing that John Lewis and then did was send forth a letter to their colleagues calling for full transparency and funding for Bill 2 for the last year, Bill 1 and through Bill 2. So the Congressional Black Caucus has been very supportive in that realm. But the reality is the Congress is controlled by the Republicans, both in the House and the Senate. So the chairman of those committees are Republicans and all. So we have to be able to work in a bipartisan way to work with the Republicans. Senator Barber has been very strong in North Carolina in getting this passed both in the House and the Senate. And this time around, Kevin Yoder from Kansas, my congressman who sits on the Appropriation Committee for the Justice Department, they're taking the lead in terms of on that. But if you're in a district where it's a Congressional Black Caucus, certainly getting with them and giving them encouragement for their ongoing support will be helpful.
And can I speak to just Till Bill too? We did have boots on the ground, if you will, during the Congressional Black Caucus in 2016. We met with many of them, whether it's in passing or whatever, in a very assertive kind of a way, and shared with them what was going on and where we needed their support. We also Court Case Justice Initiative out of Syracuse University held a briefing September 12th where many of them were invited to attend. Senator Burr was present and others sent their statements in support. But I'll tell you, we also had to also talk to Brenner. We talked to many of the other offices in the Republican House and Senate to seek their support as well. So that's the plan going forward. I even had an opportunity out at the Congressional Black Caucus to speak with one of President Trump's advisors, if you will, and that's Amorosa.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Talked to her too about it. So
she cool. She okay, sis. She all right.
Do some of that work.
I was just going to ask you about her, and like the professor said, this is about reaching across the table.
That's correct.
So, and I think I salute.
Definitely. We've done it.
I salute the sister for supporting Trump, because she had a vision that we need to have a conduit to the president, and I think it's about season. We can do that. We can make this happen. The last thing I just want to just say is that the committee that's in charge of that appropriation, who's the chairperson for that? And the second part of that, and the last part, what is the position of Minnesota senators and congressmen? Have they been fully supportive of this effort?
I can answer the second
I can
part.
answer about Minnesota.
Yeah, the second part I can answer.
Go ahead and answer about Minnesota.
Yes. Our senators, both Klobuchar and Franken, actually signed on, to the bill and approved it without any problems. Congressman Keith Ellison did as well. Paulson out of the 3rd Congressional District, not sure where he was, and then Betty McCollum, Congresswoman Betty McCollum did as well. So those, from a Senate perspective, we had 100% support because, the two there I do know as well, and they did sign on, to the bill. And Alvin, do you remember who was? I think we had unanimous consent out of the Senate. That's number one. And then out of the House, I believe it was passed by, what was the term used in the House?
It's called suspension of the rules vote. And so it passed with the 2/3 voice vote from the House. And on the Senate side, it was passed by what's called unanimous consent, meaning if any one of the 100 senators can stop it from being unanimous consent if they put a hold on it. The only way you can get unanimous consent is if none of the 100 oppose it. So we were able twice to get.
Thank you, LaBella, for sharing. We really appreciate that. Keep it going.
Now, as far as the other question about who's chairman of the committee,
Brother Calendar, are you able to hear clearly?
On top of my head, and I think there were some changes. So the best way to find out who is the current chairman, both on the House and the Senate Appropriation, is to look up U.S. House Appropriations Committee and U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee, and it'll tell you who all is on the committees. It'll tell you who the chairman is, and it'll tell you who the ranking member is from the minority parties and you can go from there. And I would say contact the chairs and their staffers. Equally important is contacting each of the members and their staffers that's on the committee itself, both Democrat and Republican.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Alvin, and maybe to even help with what that language should be, or what that conversation might look like. I'll get together with you, and we might just suggest what they should be. Just as a suggestion, not that no, we've got all intelligent people, but there is probably some language we want to make sure that we include in there, and we would be glad to offer that.
Talking points will be good and be helpful to keep everybody on the page. But one thing I do also want to say is it is very important that this is done in a bipartisan way.
Yeah.
One of the means that have provided me the success that I've had with dealing with this and other legislation is that I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm an independent.
Yeah, okay.
So I work with whoever is into office. I work to make sure that they do their jobs. I'll be meeting with and working with Sessions and and Trump, just as I would with Obama and Eric Holder and whoever else is in the office. But this time around, we got someone like Senator Barber who has opened the doors for us in a tremendous way. And Senator Barber from North Carolina. He's a Republican who has a direct line with the Attorney General now, Senator Sessions, and Senator Trump, President. And they owe him.
That's next. He's going to be a senator next.
They owe him. So he starts today in terms of setting up the meeting. When I met with Senator Barber during the inauguration time in D.C., he had been in communication with Senator Sessions, and Sessions had communicated his support for Teal Bill 2, and said that he was anxious to meet with me once he was confirmed. So once the confirmation happens today, then that's where we go from there. But part of the problem on the partisan side of both ends is when you end up beating someone up on it and you lose the access, it makes it very difficult then for you to be able to gain the response from them. So while there's a majority of folks that's out there that are beating up on both of them, Trump and Sessions, that will make it more difficult for them to be effective as they work to try and get things done through them. But like I said, I'm an independent, so once you get in, I'm on in. The only question is whether I'll be working with you or whether I'll be in your place, but I'll be there.
All right. You know what? You all have.
I was just going to say, on behalf of the Emmett Legacy Foundation, we definitely are nonpartisan. And so the work that we do under that umbrella, definitely we are very much interested in talking with anyone that is responsible or accountable, for moving this particular agenda forward. And so we definitely cannot take a position, political position against or for anyone. So this is a matter of civil rights. It's a matter of also civic engagement and a matter of justice. And that's the side that we're going to always be on.
All right. Let me address Facebook. Facebook, thank you. I want to say hats off to you all for hanging in here. And listen, those of you that are clergy, please take this back to your congregation. During this month, this is a Black History Chronicle. This is right now. And this ought to cause so many of us to come alive as never before. Take some time out and let your congregation hear this. If you have attorneys in your congregation, let them hear it. And your teenagers, millennials. Listen, millennials, you have technical brilliance that is almost unbelievable. Contact the Mpls Foundation on Facebook. Inbox them and let them know you're ready to utilize your skills. That was one of the things that we talked about in part 2. And where do our business community of millennials go from here? Using your technology, using your expertise. And the best way for you to know how to do that is to inbox them on Facebook, contact them, and we'll post their email address. One of the individuals on Facebook said, as well as research, artistic depiction, and signposts to put others on alert so they can understand and offer what they have historically, go for it. Contact Mpls Legacy Foundation right on Facebook. Again, as it relates to those of you that came on later, talk with your congregation. Find out what their heartbeat is and what they're thinking after hearing this. And also, it's going to be imperative that we communicate boots on the ground with our elders. They aren't savvy when it comes to technology and connected, but guess what? They've got the stories. They know of the cold cases. And this is an opportunity that only God could have allowed us. Such a tragedy, but nevertheless, we are a people that is, I'm telling you, as never before, our resilience, our bravery, and that which we've had to walk through, the history and all, let's make it work and have been for good. So we're going to deviate and take a break. As you know, we've been with you during this time, and Professor Attorney Sykes and also Miss Deborah Watts, we want to thank you. Now, offline, we're going to talk about me coming to Atlanta so that we can do the broadcast there and bring the people in. And if we have to do it here, we'll go into the studio as well, because we've got to keep this momentum during this time. So again, I'm honored and I appreciate all of you joining us. And hats off to Lock Stars. Hats off to Lock Stars. Wow. The sanctuary of Lock Stars, and so much more. So after we come back from the break shortly here, we're going to hear from the educator, the master loctician, Michael Kuykindall. We would be remiss to do it any other way. All right, any last thought, attorney, as well as Ms. Deborah Watts?
What?
Brother Alvin?
Alvin?
Well, I thought I heard make reference to me as professor and attorney. Let me clarify, I'm neither. I'm a human rights worker. I'm president of the Mpls Justice Campaign, and I've been a victim advocate.
All right, then that's what Deborah thinks of you, so what can I say?
Okay, Brother Alvin. That's why I put Brother Alvin in front of there. Okay, Brother Alvin, brothers and sister Deborah. We're brothers and sisters. That's good enough. We don't need no titles.
No.
For 40 years, they've been trying to get me for a fraction mile without life.
All right.
Hey, brother Alvin. Hey, and also, I'm an independent either. I'm an independent also. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, so I know how to sit and work across the table. That's important.
That's it.
And
That's the way I do it.
And I'll tell you, but you know, some of us without a title have a unique ability to grasp the issues, to grasp whether it's this legislation, how to move things forward. And so we give thanks. Our entire family gives thanks and honor to Alvin Sykes.
Yes.
He's been with us for a long time. When we launched the foundation in 2005, he was there with us in Chicago. And so we've relied on him. He has been a confidant of ours. And so I appreciate you embracing him in that respect.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, you know, make that trip down from Minnesota through Nebraska on to Kansas, get your dates, and then, you know, make sure you catch a lecture or an opportunity where Alvin is speaking at one of the libraries. He's a resident. He's been recognized by the libraries and educated himself in that way. And hopefully you can read his story as well.